Alrighty, fans and friends, we're back. Your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 620, and we're recording live on May the 16th. Brianna, how you doing?
I am good. It's just like I feel like we're just like speeding into the middle of this year and it is just happening really quickly. And so much is happening and like industry wide, but also I would say specifically like CTV and with work and like just life is so busy. Does it just keep getting busier? I mean, what do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for filling in with Karsten last week.
We had
Uh,
fun.
that was good. It looked like you guys had some fun, and yeah, I was in Tokyo working on a deal there, and that went well. So I'm happy about that. But it's good to be back and to see you. Yeah, and we have a long weekend coming up here in Canada this next weekend, so that'll be nice. And the weather's been good, and
Good.
we're things are going in the right direction. But yeah, it's busy. It's very busy.
Yeah.
And we have a busy show, four stories that to cover off some interesting things, I think, this week. And I'll let you start off with restaurant stuff.
Restaurant and AI. I mean, the hot topic that just doesn't end. Wendy's QSR has teamed up with Google Cloud and they are testing out artificial intelligence tech at the drive-through. So starting in June, this pilot project's going to be aimed at creating these quick and consistent drive-through experiences. And if it works, it could be, really big because Wendy's is like nearly 7,000 restaurants worldwide. But this is an expansion on existing partnership with Google Cloud, I should say specifically. And that's called Wendy's Fresh AI. And really, they're just trying to use the generative AI, large language models. And really, Wendy's says that like 80% of its customers are using the drive-through as their preferred ordering channel. And so there's difficulties there. We all know this. We've all been through a drive-through where you have a special order, they can't understand you, it's broken, whatever. There's a lot of complexities and like the menu options and things like that. So this is really aimed to help with that. And I would say like streamline that experience for consumers. And we've seen other brands, other QSR restaurants that are deploying AI with drive-through ordering. So I've seen like Carl's Jr., Hardee's, depending on where you are in the in this side of the country or that. And they've done that with a platform called Tori. And then we've also seen Del Taco that's working with a company called Presto Automation at some drive-throughs. So, this is certainly a trend that we're seeing. It's happening more and more in the space. I think that anything that can improve the convenience factor and like even the customer service impact and make things a little bit more seamless would be really helpful. I feel like honestly, the norm for most QSR restaurants, I would say the exception most of the time is like a Chick-fil-A, but it's problematic. It's frustrating. I think it's frustrating for the employees. It's frustrating for the people who are ordering. And I think this is a great way to use and infuse AI in QSR. It's like it just makes sense. And so if they can improve and make it easier to understand what people are saying and special requests, I look forward to trying this out at a drive-through and seeing how it makes the experience better. Maybe it doesn't make the food better, but perhaps it's a little more seamless and quicker. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting. I think it is a good use case of this kind of generative AI technology. I think if the language models that they're talking about are able to handle, accents and complex requests and things like that, then I think this could be quite useful. And then it's also about consistency, right? Like if it's, you don't have different staff, working there all the time taking, orders. And from a consumer perspective, you have sort of a very consistent experience. It's the same as what they try to do with their food, right? Like, all these fast food places, they have a model and, the food has, step one, step two, step three, and like, all these kinds of things. but there's a consistency to, a Big Mac or, a Wendy's burger or whatever is the same, wherever you go. And I think if you can bring that kind of consistency to, drive-through ordering or those kinds of things, and using generative AI to do that, I think this is a good fit. And as you said, there's a lot of locations, right, that they have to deploy this to if it works. So I like it. I think it's interesting, and it also to see that other chains are doing similar with other AI technologies out there, right? So it's not just Google, that's behind this, but I think this is a good partnership that they've had with Google for some time. So I like it. Yeah. Okay. Moving on now. So we're going to jump from Wendy's over to Amazon. And I think this is a really interesting story. So Amazon has launched a new immersive shopping platform called Amazon Anywhere. And what's really interesting about this, it's trying to kind of bridge the gap between the metaverse or Web3 type of applications and physical or shopping. And so what they've done is they've kind of built this platform that developers can work with on virtual environments. So whether it's a video game or augmented reality application or mobile app that you're building, basically you can kind of connect it up with Amazon Anywhere. And then through this partnership, while you're playing the game or in that virtual environment, you can interact with and buy items from Amazon. So essentially your Amazon account, your Prime account, all that is linked into this. And then, whether it's game specific kind of merchandise, let's say, or, just things that aren't, from an advertising point of view, but might be related. That part works exactly the same way. You see the product information and images, and whether it's available on Prime or not, and the price and the delivery. And then you tap on the buy button from within, this virtual environment. And then the product is shipped out to you just like any other Amazon purchase. So I think that's really interesting. And the first one is they've worked with the Niantic guys who created Pokemon Go, and they've built a game called Peridot. It's available right now on iOS and Android. And basically, gamers can interact. And what you do is you care for AI powered virtual pets. So it's kind of a digital version of pet rocks, I guess, and things like that we grew up with. I don't know. But I think it's kind of interesting. And so within this, now with the Amazon Anywhere platform tied into it, they've got these sort of Peridot game related merchandise. So t-shirts and hoodies and phone accessories and throw pillows and artwork and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. And I see a lot of potential for this type of overlay going forward. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like shoppable ads, experiential ads is a huge opportunity right now in all the different formats that they're offered. And I love this, not only because Peridot happens to be my birthstone, but it's also, I think, just like a really great way to integrate an existing feature and functionality from the app reach that Amazon has existing with something else like a game. And so I think that, I probably a whole nother podcast session could be like why the metaverse kind of just came to a screeching halt, or like it kind of just fell off a little bit for the time being. But I think that we're realizing, okay, rather than setting up like this retail space in the metaverse or something like that, or in addition to, I should say, but like, let's bring people into a place that we already know they're going to come. I'm not making them have to go to a separate place. Like, they are already coming in, they're playing this game with Niantic. Now they're going to have this way of like purchasing things that are tied. It's that content. And it's also, I would say, like full circle when you think about like sponsored content within shows, or the ability to have like something that's shoppable and it's tied directly to something that's happening within either a game environment or a television show or a movie that you're streaming. Like, all of those just create a lot more touch points, and it ties that consumer, I would say, a little bit more emotionally to what you're advertising. So I think that there's so many benefits to this as the advertiser, as just like creating the platform. And I am really excited about this one.
Yeah, me too. And if it's taking care of virtual pets, are you gonna let your girls play around with this or what?
Yeah, I think I would. My kids like ask for phones and they have access to tablets that they can play with. So if it's something that's available via tablet, I'm all for it. But like we are pretty firm on like the no phones for quite a while.
Right.
I'm like, be a child, play outside. This is kind
Yeah.
of what we're going to focus on for now. That stuff is coming soon enough. And it's going to be, way bigger than it ever was when we were growing up and even today. So
Yeah, for sure.
TBD, but pet rocks in the virtual world, I can get with that.
Nice.
So sticking with kind of a retail story, Macy's is teaming up with the Trade Desk and they're going programmatic. Now, maybe when I read the title of this story about like Macy's going programmatic, I'm like, don't they already do programmatic advertising? That seems like a no-brainer. But this is not really exactly simply that. They are partnering with Trade Desk for a data partnership. And this is really interesting. And I expect that this is really the tip of the iceberg for companies like Macy's. So they are the largest department store chain in the US. And now with this partnership for self-serve advertising powered by Macy's data, think about the different aspects here. You've got the Trade Desk that has access to all these audiences, all these segments, and now we'll have access to Macy's segments that maybe another company can buy. So an example of this could be like, I want to target Nike shoppers. I want to target maybe people who are in a specific stage of life. Think of people who are shopping for maternity or baby, people who are shopping for furniture because maybe they just moved, and selling and using those segments and activating on those via, programmatic via the Trade Desk, whether that's like the self-serve environment. And they can use those maybe for an insurance provider, or maybe someone who is looking for a bigger house because they're having a child. So there's so many great applications of this data. Now, don't get this confused with the media network, Macy's Media Network, which was formed in 2020, just a few years ago. But that ad sales group was really focused on its own and operated media. So think of its own digital real estate, like its website. Macy's also owns Bloomingdale's, so their apps, the retail placements, package inserts, which would be like outside of digital, but still in the screens in stores. So all of that, Macy's is going to continue to have ownership of, and they will maintain that ownership of. But this allows for beyond, I would say, like endemic or like those native placements that make sense, right? So this is partnership, and Macy's will likely add other partners, as I would assume the Trade Desk will add other audiences and segments for targeting. But they are the first major retailer to partner with the Trade Desk that is not a national grocery or convenience store, which is pretty big. And I think that, it's another perspective almost on that type of data that they can bring. So the Trade Desk will allow the brands to onboard their CRM data matched to Macy's audience. They can also use like the prepackaged audiences, but I think this is a really exciting venture. And I just like expect that we're going to see so many more follow suit. And it just, to me, it makes sense. It's like a privacy forward way of letting people still use segments that are valuable to them, to other advertisers. And I think that it kind of removes Macy's from having to focus too much on other things like selling their audiences. And they really get to focus on their media network and their retail experience and still control that as well. Another retailer that has used the Trade Desk in a self-serve DSP is Walmart. And they kind of use it as like a programmatic sales force of sorts, but it has more of a walled garden model. So I think that we're just going to see retailers take different approaches. But I think this is really powerful. I think it's good for Macy's. I think it's great for the Trade Desk, obviously. And it's good for other advertisers who want to be able to use those segments to target off of. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's the tip of the iceberg. I think, we've been seeing all these retailers start to, open up, media network offerings. I mean, they've been at this now for internally, obviously since 2020, but, we've talked about Walgreens and CVS and, some of these other, Kroger and some of these other people that are doing likewise. And I think it's smart, right? At the end of the day, you have, a sort of a declining model on one side in terms of available audience data. And, so a great way to fill that is to, make these kinds of data sets available, for others to use, right? And I think it also creates just a whole new kind of branch of revenue for retailers. I mean, retailers, margins are tough and tight on the goods that they're selling. And so if you can, start to generate revenue as a data company or media company on top of that, why not, right? And so I think you're going to see a ton of this. I think, most retailers, and not even just retailers, I could see restaurant chains getting into this. I could see, lots of different, types of groups that have, data on their customers and their audiences, making that available for others. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be those that take this kind of approach and say, hey, here it is, and let others match up against it, or build lookalikes against it, or do those kinds of things and target to them. And others that say no, like we're not going to open it up that way. We're just going to use partnerships like the Trade Desk for our own internal purposes, like Walmart is doing. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to see tons of these types of these partnerships. The one that comes to mind, like for me, that I don't know if they have this going on, but like somebody like a Dick's Sporting Goods, like that's a pretty interesting, unique audience, right? That I think a lot of people would be interested in targeting. So you're going to see a lot of that. So I like it. I think it's super interesting, and I'm always intrigued to see kind of what the Trade Desk is doing next, because they seem to be ever evolving and adding partners, like there's no tomorrow. So
Yep.
It's very interesting. So, all right, on to our final story now. So this time we're going to jump into the alcohol space and talk about Absolut Vodka. And this is a local story here in Canada where I am. They working with their agency Ogilvy here in Canada, they've created a new campaign called Mix Your Neighborhood. And what this does is it's first of its kind, basically cocktails that incorporate Absolut Vodka are developed using AI technology. So they have an AI platform that's basically generating these cocktail ideas, but the attributes or the ingredients, if you will, are focused on local neighborhoods. So they went out and talked to different people about bartenders in different neighborhoods across the city or across the country, and kind of got from them what they felt were, key, interesting, attributes or things about that neighborhood, and then had AI basically put together cocktails that, are kind of reflective of that. And then they took that sort of those recipes now that were created by the AI platform, and then took them back out to bartenders, and had them actually create these cocktails and serve them in the local neighborhoods. So what I like about this is that it's again another interesting way that they're taking AI technology that we're seeing pop up all over the place, but using it in a way to do something that is kind of different and cool, and still touching the physical world, right? So in this case, we're talking about you can go to a local bar here in your neighborhood, and they have a cocktail now that is made up of interesting things from your neighborhood, and is reflective of that. So I like the local aspect of it. So the question they ask is, if your neighborhood was a cocktail, what would it look like? And so I think it's interesting, right? Because we all have these little things that we know about the area that we live in or work in or play in, that are unique to those areas, right? And if you can kind of, draw on those things or kind of highlight them in different ways, whether that's something historical or the culture of the people or local plants or things that are growing in the area, I think it's kind of interesting. So they're going to be doing this all summer long in neighborhoods across the country. You can go to absolute.com /en-ca, and they're inviting locals everywhere to nominate their hoods and tell them what makes it unique. And you can get a cocktail mixed up and a recipe, and you can download the cocktail artwork from the website and all kinds of cool things like that. So what are your thoughts?
I think this is really fun, and I think this is like really a good combination of Absolute's like value proposition, if you will, because they have so many unique flavors, right? They have so many, if you think about Absolute, it's like it's a staple name, it's a generally like decent vodka. It's available everywhere. So I think that the fact that they have something that has so many flavors and it's available in so many places, and now they're tying it to the uniqueness of a restaurant or a neighborhood, and have that available in a restaurant. I just think it's a really smart approach, and that like it's not them trying to be somebody besides who they are. Like they're not trying to go be Grey Goose or Tito's or anybody else. Like they're being themselves, and it's kind of authentic to their brand. I think it's a great way to like infuse their flavor and their, uniqueness in all these different places. And I love that they're starting in Canada. I mean, it's really cool.
I like it too. Yeah. So I'll have to check in with Danielle on that, since she works there and local here. So we'll see what she has to say about that campaign, but very cool. Well, that's it. That's our show for this week, for wide-ranging stories. But thank you everybody for listening and watching. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week, of course, with another show. And also want to just quickly point out that for the LBMA community out there, we have our conference coming up soon, June 13th and 14th at the Mall of America. A lot of great speakers coming together for that. So I encourage you, just go check it out. Go to the lbma.org website, and you'll see the event listed there. Yeah, we would love to see you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.